You know, like Aleister Crowley. Now, but with Aleister Crowley, and this is very important you hear this, a teacher can only take you as far as they themselves have been. And Crowley died as a drug addict in Hastings. It's Madame Curie died of radiation too. That doesn't mean they were dumb or stupid or limited. As we explore, and Leary was an explorer, so was Crowley. What is that, Diary of a Drug Fiend? There you go. That part has risk and history of the risk. Madame Curie died of radiation poisoning, so, there it is. And she was a brilliant woman. So, with that perspective, today what I'm going to try to do is open one of your circuits. I'm going to show you how to play with it. I'll show you how to practice with it. And I'm going to hopefully see some of you form a psychic certification program, because, when a psychic, and there's all kinds of psychics in this world that can do things. And most of them, because they're not internally aware, have misused some of their gifts in a self-serving kind of way. Now, you can't criticize them because they don't have the awareness yet. And so what you're trying to do is grok how you might take a gift and be able to unhook the demon instead that was clinging on. Garlic works really good. What I do when someone's bad in my house, I will take a piece of garlic and I'll walk around every room, every corner, so I have a big seal of garlic. That works for me. How about you? That's a psychic self-defense by Dion Fortune. You wrap your white light. It's all about your belief systems. How many people believe in extrasensory perception? Well, now we got something to go here, but when SEALs would do it, maybe 2 out of 7. That's why the first SEAL unit was only 8 of us. The new SEAL units are all bigger. There was 8 of us, and we were little monsters. No, I got some stories. I've got, memories. There's no bone, and we've been places, saw things, and now know how to see the fruit in the trees. Look at that red over there in those trees. Teaching you how to see things far away and right here in front of you. Because guess what? Space and time are not real. And that means it's not really extrasensory perception. And why? Dr. Rind in the 30s broke the phenomena into 2 categories. There was extrasensory perception and PK phenomena. Now, PK phenomena was outside the body, and ESP was inside the body. And while I have delved in this area with remote viewing and things of that nature, that's dangerous. As I'm doing my little Tai Chi, and I'm a monkey warts on the limb. This part was broken into 5 categories. And we're going to talk about each one because the work I did, and I have videos of me at Mission Control when I worked with Edgar Mitchell. Now, this category, and this is what we're going to talk about today. We're not going to deal with that at all. That is possibly Martians trying to do us. So we're going to talk about ESP. If you do this, you can change everything. And that's why we'll start with the first steps. It's broken in 5 categories. I'm going to name them, and then I'm going to talk about each one. There's clairvoyance, telepathy, precognition. I went through a senior ADD moment there. Astral projection and radiesthesia. You know, like Hieronymus. And all the Japanese lanterns above you fell down in a nice little pod thing. With that, see, nobody ever noticed that Japanese lantern right behind you there. Whoops, there it is. And so, with that said, clairvoyance, all extrasensory information is brought into consciousness. This place right here that I am, not over here or there, this place, via a hallucination of some form. You either hear it, clairaudience, you feel it, clairascension, or clairvoyance, you see it. You know, you're seeing clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairascension. It's an important concept there. It means that what you're actually experiencing isn't really real. There's a grain of information that has to go through some sort of weird filter process so you can get it. But the fact is, you have it all. And what you need to do is focus on individual spots. So my first book, the ESP book, talks at the 8th chapter, talks about the different depths of hypnosis. Hypnosis is you listening to my voice, sleep now, ha ha ha, but excluding the river. And that, everybody has a little different on that. And that is called the depth of hypnosis. And what we wanted was a way to measure the depth of hypnosis. How deep is he? How up is he? And so in the 8th chapter, what I've done is I've broken it down into categories like this is where your nose goes numb. This is where, you know, different stages that I could measure from a physical plane point of view and say, oh, he's in stage 7, you know, as opposed to 12. And it's for you to tell me how many, and hopefully your boys and children and all of that will write a better book on doing it better than I did as another step on understanding what's really going on. Good luck on that. If you have any questions while I'm going, you know, I'm better responding to questions than I am just lecturing. But I need to do that now, I guess. Okay, so clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairascension, telepathy. Now, the experiments that I did with Edgar Mitchell, there were a bunch of them we did, and how we did them was that they didn't know they were going to do these tests until he was already moving toward the moon, and he said, I won't do anything more unless we do these tests. They brought me in. That's how he did it. He blackmailed to get these tests done because this was the first time in history we had an ability to put space between us, distances, so we could measure time, you know, how long it took. This was the first time we had an option to put big things in front of us, blocking it like the moon. You know, it was an opportunity to do some serious testing that we couldn't do on Earth. We had done things with James Hurtak and some of the others, you know, out of Chicago, but we had not. I'm just kidding. I have to do that. I wouldn't want to get too serious, you know. Hurtak is one of my friends. You know, I know these people. We came out of the 70s, early 70s. I met Hurtak in 1970 in New York City. Dr. Stanley Krippner was the one that introduced me. Bill Tiller was there. That's where I first met Bill. That's where I met a bunch of them. Mitchell, he was there. My paper at that conference was on Carolean photography, and that's led me to write the holographic concept of reality. And so I Wiki now is giving me the credit over Preram and John Boehm, because while Talbot didn't have me in his book, that's because I was top secret at the time I was doing it. Plus, I was teaching at Evergreen. I can't believe it. You know who I had students? One of my first students at Evergreen was Fred Allen Wolf, Jeffrey Mishlove, blah, blah, blah. I had a bunch of students back then, and I'm hoping that you guys make me proud. No, I hope you make me proud. I'm just the first of a number of steps. You like those pods? Just cut them off and stick them in a vase and they'll be good. That's how you do pods. Telepathy, well, before I can talk about telepathy, I have to talk about the Apollo 13 mission. When Mitchell, we were able to see how James Hurtak and several others worked with me on this, with Mitchell. This was all that big program we did. I don't know how many people are familiar with that program. And they have it on TV, you know, with what's-his-face playing Edgar Mitchell. Well, it was the Apollo 13 mission studies and the ESP studies that happened on that mission. Oh, well, there's a little history thing you might want to check out. It'll be all over. It's in there. Now, what we did, what we were able to discover is, I didn't know what to call it, so I decided to call it PSI energy, psi energy. What I'm going to try to do. Hey there, morning. Carrie Cassidy, thank you for making all of this. This is Carrie Cassidy. Yeah. She's crazy. No, man. I'm not even going to talk about last night. Medic! Missing time aliens. What? You have no idea. So, with that in mind, what happened was, when Hurtak and Mitchell were working together, I was running the whole thing at Canaveral. And I was Navy, Intel at the time. And I had a couple of my brethren, military, and we did this series of experiments, and what we discovered, psi energy, apparently, and we could reproduce that, was independent of space and time. That means that we were dealing on something more fundamental than space-time. We were dealing with a subset that was more real than our illusion of space-time. Your concept of time, for example, is, Robert Ornstein says, it is a duration of consciousness. It is the way you wrap proteins and the fact that you have two brains and you have a little bottleneck down there, and so to move it around in a holographic system takes time, or the illusion of it going from one place to the other with little signals going and moving the memory and the wrapped proteins and so on, microtubule. And so, yes?
I was just kind of going to ask, how do we tap into that?
Well, we're going to show you right off today. That's my mission today, is to have you walking away better than you were right at this moment, and with a program or protocols that can make you like, where do you want to go? Huh?
The stars.
Well, that sounds like Mission to Mars. Yeah, nice ride. It's all in metaphor. If you think, I mean, I can give you a bunch of examples of where time is an illusion, but I did that a long time ago in Chicago, and that paper was called Time Distortion, or I never knew there were corners in time until I was told to stand in one. And it's important to concept, because in the boxing world, one of the things I taught my SEALs was not Tai Chi, but how when they were boxing and you're coming in to box, where when someone would throw a blow at you, you could come back and have the perfectness of the roundness to come in and do him. And, where you're going to hit him hard. And you can do that, and that's, I think, power tool number 5, where you use breathing to change your perception of time, where you're almost hallucinating. You're hallucinating, but you're able to do it so that you're able to have that movement, precision. And that's the difference between being world class and normal. The ability to control your breath. And my Sifu, before I had 18 years of Hangao. You know, where you're boxing, you slap jab. You know, you're about to take out his nose. And 18 years, and my Sifu then had me do just simple walk, where I learned how to walk for 1 year. Didn't teach me the form. You know, there's double sword. How many people are familiar with Tai Chi's? Okay, what happened was, where I was world champion, was a double sword, where I extended my chi. Because when I was able to do that, what the eighth movement in Tai Chi is where you have weapons, where you're extending your chi. And so it's a breath thing. And it has nothing to do with weapons. In other words, that when we get into the lawn local mind, like a fourth stage telepath, you can sweep four blocks. You can learn how to do that kind of thing. Okay, conceptually. So if it's independent of space-time, that means we're dealing with a new kind of energy that is, say, more fundamental than force times mass. I mean, you know, the momentums, the energies, the concepts. The force part was what we're trying to understand what a force is in this system. What is a force? You know, action, reaction, when you push, shove, boom, boom, boom. The force in this case is your thought form. And if you're dealing inside the mind, and these 5 categories that we're talking about, telepathy is where you take your consciousness and you put it over there. And clairvoyance is where the information is there and you bring it here. So astral projection is where you take more to go there. And precognition and retrognition, past and future events, Amish, sorry, I was trained by the best. Yeah, you bet. The idea of moving energy from inside the body, of form, sampling and bringing it back, and then translating it into a hallucination of clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairascension, one of the 5 senses. Now, it turns out, in my 3rd book, I'm writing it right now, there's a whole bunch of senses in the body that we haven't even paid attention to yet, and this is going to be the next stage in evolution. One of them is avian bird mechanisms for flight. You have paracoupling in your eyes just like the pigeon does. That means you know where the magnetic fields are, paracoupling. It'll be in my book on how it all works, just like photosynthesis, using a holographic system. These simple things, they come out of it as solutions when you structure a universe this way as opposed to a quantum universe, which is this way. And they're both not right. They're models like Hilbert space. The way we do it in physics is that we were going to do the equation of motion for an electron around an atom. And while we can do that, for one electron, the quote many-body problem is impossible. That's where you have 2 doing their things around the nucleus. And of course, you know, when you get up into uranium, which has it's impossible. How do you solve those equations? What the physicists did is invent a thing called Hilbert space. It's a little simple universe, has little rules, and and then solve the problem there, and then, like ESP, translated it back into an approximation. And so the approximation isn't exactly correct, and that's the fine-tuning thing that you're going to do. And it's a resonance thing, and actually it works with holograms where you're doing it here, and then pretty soon you're a 0-point energy where you're just in sync. Good luck. Because once you get that place, I'm not there, you're not in conflict with anything. That's what a saint is. That is the first definition of what a saint is. They're not in conflict with anything. That's how you tell if This guy's a spiritual leader. He's a fourth plane or fifth plane mystic. You start by measuring his length, girth, and width. Same thing with your mind. And you all really probably can do what I do even better than I do. Why? Because I'm still a little 4-year-old. You're, what, 9 now or something like that? Yeah. And so there it is. I feel that my gift was to get it like a little kid. Then I got it at age 68. And so I'm going to show you my picture of Mom. And how that's how it's going to be. And then you're going to be able to do some real artwork with it. And I'd like to see a certification program started on extrasensory perception like we do now with hypnosis. Back when I was doing this, hypnosis wasn't believable. And ESP, like Matt, doesn't want me to use that word, doesn't want me to use magic. That's okay with certain people, but, in the world of things, in order to be a Carl Sagan or something of that nature, I have to be very careful on your belief systems and your assumed truths. Oh, by the way, Alan Watts said that if you touch that again in one moment, that little pollen that just flew off, you will experience a moment of infinite bliss. It will only last one moment, and then you'll forget it. That's Alan Watts. I loved Alan Watts. He was a very good, cool guy, man. His last teachings, by the way, were up at Cold Mountain Institute in a little tiny island on Shaw Island that's up in the San Juans, part of Vancouver Island in Canada. It's right up near Denman Island. In the inner straits of Juan de Fuca. I taught with him in his last years because he didn't have the Buddhist forms of the Chinese forms of Buddhism, and he wanted to have a broader balance of what Buddhism was, which I don't have a clue either. So we were in, neither of us had clues. We were just trying to talk about it. Well, that's why. Do you know what the largest religion in the world is right now? It's not Catholic. Huh? Muslim. Kill them all. Let God sort it out. Sorry.
Are you looking at my t-shirt again?
What's that?
Looking at my t-shirt?
No, but I got it. Thanks, John. So, with all of this said, I guess what I'm trying to say is once you get the idea that you already have this information in you because of all these other avian bird mechanisms, you're dialoguing with the earth right now. What I call voice of the silence, or the, not voice of the silence, that's a Shabbat. What I'm talking is voice of the planet. I was working up too high. Sorry about that. We'll get to Shabbat next course. Sound current. When you get talking to the earth, how many people know what Schumann's resonance is or have an idea of it? For those of you who don't, it is not changing. It can't change. It's a physical constant. It isn't about man and harp and, whatever. It isn't like that. It's a geometry like Titan has the Schumann's resonance. All planets have a resonance. This has to do with lightning strikes at any point on the Earth and a reverberation that happens in the ionosphere that has to do with the diameter of the Earth, how many discharges are happening, blah, blah, blah. And Schumann's resonance is at 8.3 something or other cycles. That's Dr. Hainsworth out of Perth. And really, it's talking to you because you have today evolved. That's a time thing, so how does that all work? Yeah, exactly. See, I'm going to have some problems back and forth in the metaphor. But your heart has an aortic arch, and that aortic arch has a certain length to it that, in terms of your heartbeat, and it creates a stochastic pressure on your cranium, which is this big gel of liquids and, rubber and crystals. They press it and it lights and it zooms and it's gel. And so there's things that are going on that make the body is like an antenna with a big crystal on the top of it. Exactly correct. And what's happening is you're dialoguing with everything around you. The Schumann's resonance, this stochastic pressure, has evolved to be precisely the same at middle theta, where you do your most healing. That's why when you're sick, you go down into a fetal. And what you're really trying to do is in lower states than alpha, where you can tap into ions and cell salts moving through your body most efficiently. And once you learn how to do that, I can teach you how to do things with meditation and regenerating nerve tissue. There's all kinds of possibilities once you take control of your mind. And it's not, you don't take control of it. It's like Simon says, you can go halfway to the door. You'll never get there. You know. So before we could even talk about mind control, we have to talk about what the mind is itself. And there's a lot of models out there, you know, of different things. I did the first one, which was called embryonic holography. Once we had that concept, then we knew about microwave and some of the other base frequencies that we have dosimetry on our body on. The body has different kinds of, cells, thicknesses, compactnesses, bone to be soft metal, soft tissue. And so with that said, these resonances are going on through your body and they're dialoguing with all of you. And that's what you're feeling with me right now, is because I've been skilled a little bit to be able to transmit so that it isn't about my words. It's when you see it in your mind's eye. Once you've got it here, there's no need for physics. It's not about physics any more than your wife when she puts the key in the ignition and goes, vroom, and has certain behaviors for rituals that she does. And she doesn't think about an internal engine and how it's combusting, and she doesn't think about that part. She has a ritual. That is called cybernetic anthropology. That's a term that needs to be talked more with Laughlin, D'Aquili, and McManus. They're brilliant in these areas. And this is what I'm hoping will happen, is that some of you will branch into the second stage that I haven't even dealt with, where I'm dealing with the individual, and then we move to the next of small communities. I have a concept of the way man can live like Aborigines, where you do not have to give up your technology. You can actually improve it like they did in Greece, where it wasn't about things, it was something more. That's a good word, something more. Yeah. Okay. What I want to do, I haven't finished them all. Astral projection is where I go, my consciousness goes to a place and gets the information and brings it back to my body, as opposed to clairvoyance where the information comes to me, or telepathy where I push it there. Now we have a fourth one. We did time, does the same thing. In other words, the precog thing is the same thing of those, only with time doing in this way. So you got space and time. Now, the last one, radiesthesia, is the one that Hieronymus and others tried to understand, where they could use the bones, something external that would convey information back to them. Dowsing, dowsing, radiesthesia, where you're using an external tarot cards, the bones, where it tells you something. I'm sorry? Absolutely. In fact, because I wrote Power Tools with a whole thing around the I Ching on Power Tools, what I did is a power tool is when you take a super thing, like ESP, and you marry it with something else. And let's say, the food, okay, we're doing food categories. I got cordyceps, and then I do transfer factor. That forms a diagram. But I've got 6 other pyrolytic clay, that you can form a hexagram for the 64. And there you go with Fibonacci again. It gets better and better. You're going to love this. Because actually the 8 memes is 7 chords in an octave. And the octave is what As above, so below. Because a hologram is not about space-time, it's about information. And information is just like space-time. It has a way of folding in on itself and coming out of itself. We'll call those fractals. That's the myth. Gabor did those originally, and then Glick with Mandelbrot, Julia, and May patterns. There's a series of different kinds of generators. And what a generator is a thing that goes, that's you. Okay? And what happens next is the next cue, and you have a cascade of them. And so the first one, working on the physical plane, might be, and you can dialogue. And then you have unity, or union, or what we call self-realization, where you're using the other 9/10 of your cerebral cortex. By the way, just for the record, you're only using 10% of your cerebral cortex right now. And when you start using these exercises, we've observed that you move it up a little bit because you start using parts of the brain that you haven't normally used. Why did everybody like Mozart? We call that the Mozart effect, because what that music is doing is stimulating a part of your brain that's gotten sluggish, and you can't get enough of it, even if you're a savage. There's something about it that draws you to it because it's exercising a part of you that you wouldn't normally otherwise think. If you want to know more about how that happened, read Steve Gaskins, the farm guy, you know, in Tennessee. I took his Monday night class. That's how old I am. And he was down in Berkeley, and he drew this circle on the blackboard, and he said, may not be a perfect circle, but it's a perfect whatever it is. It's all in the balance of homeostasis. Sun Bear, walk in balance. And try to find the center of yourself. Because once you have your own center, then you can share. And believe me, in the great book of magic, Solomon the King, the second paragraph says, ownership is enhanced when shared with another. It's about union with others after you have your own union. Okay, and we'll talk about that at another class in another place. But there's a place you can go with this that allows you to just be as lazy as I am, or as effort if you want to do. Well, what makes a good biofeedback system when we get to it is how many options you have when you hit a learning plateau. You know, everybody can get something and they're starting to, oh, I get it, you know, up to a place, and then they stop. And you turn a different feedback, and then they go up on more, and you break plateaus. Learning plateaus is what that's called. And so what you want to do is have a unit. You're going to try to control your mind, you know, alpha. You want to have one that has 4 to 20 different ways you can feed the signal back. You know, different ways that cause you to learn how to hear things in your body. Good luck. This is not an easy thing to do, and it's an awareness. That's the aha. How many of you think about LSD therapy? Just kidding. I can give you all a jump start figuring it out. You got all of that, yeah? Cool. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I can't do the questionnaire, but the questionnaire was designed so that I could get the very top possibilities. It wasn't whether or not they were psychic. What we were measuring was their ability and intuition. That's where the first SEALs were. They were not muscles. They weren't, you know, like building pipe bombs, and, you know, what I wanted was someone that when they were in the field and they didn't know what to do, could make a correct decision. There might not be any options, and there's no way out. You know, that I've been in those too. I was in a lifeboat for 4.5 days. Huh. And I can tell you that you really don't know. None of us do. But you can have a better sense of assimilating the experience so that you can do something with it, you know, as a tool or something. And that's why one of the mandates that I wanted all my leads to have is that everything happens for a reason, and everything happens leads to something better. It's all about you getting more and more control of your own biosphere. The Greek in the old cultures used to talk about that as aut-ark, supreme individual sovereignty. It's not possible. In my second book, instead of doing the different physical forms of measuring depths of hypnosis, second book on power tools now talks about an ontology of mystical states. John Curtis Gowan. It's on my website as a teaser, right on the homepage. You can run down there, and it's chapter 8, mystical states of consciousness. And why we want that is like with physical plane, where we're measuring a physical parameter on your body to know how deep you are in hypnosis. That's why, because I want to know what place is for best guessing, as opposed to pain, as opposed to, see what I'm saying? In all of these conscious states, and they're all grouped, you can do something in those states that you cannot do in a conscious waking state. And that's why God gave them to you. Yes, sir?
You're talking about a lot of complex kind of subjects a little
Yes.
bit, you know. And I just kind of was wondering if there was any way that we could kind of just, you know,
Simplify it.
yeah,
Simplify.
right, exactly, or get kind of some of the applications of those
I think he's going to drill down later.
topics.
Well, no, yeah, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually show you protocols. But your point's well taken. My point to you is I'm talking to some part of you that you're not even getting consciously yet.
Okay.
And watch when you read what you get each time you read it a second time. I'm trying to be real precision in the levels of the information. Information is extremely important. It is more fundamental. And what a fractal is about is the way information folds in on itself or out of itself. And once you have that concept that it's about information, not what's going to happen, space-time, events, blah, 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 like Plato. Once you have that, then your growth curve in grasping information becomes statistical inferences are up. We were taking people just like you, and in less than 2 months, your decision making, for throwing the crowd, calling Powerball or whatever, 400 times. 400 times, not 400%, 400 times over where you were. Beyond statistical inference, and what the whole thing means is, it's beyond space-time, and you already have that information because you have a whole bunch of other things going on that have nothing to do with space or time. They're illusions, just like ego.
And I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, yeah.
You said the questions were you liked that a little bit better to kind of move through that way.
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, you said you wanted questions, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I absolutely, thank you. You bet. In fact, it's good. The simple part is for simple people. You're not at all. You're a very complex person, and I'm hoping that at some point you'll see what I didn't see for a long time myself until I finally started to understand that's why I invented a holographic universe to be juxtaposed from a quantum universe and trying to fit consciousness into quantum universes. It won't work that way because quantum universes deal with entanglement and decoherence, whereas a holographic universe deals with information and the resolution of the information. It's a way of cascading information of which space-time is just a simple subset. That means that it's possible for you to change space and time. In fact, this body that you've been given is actually a space-time machine. In fact, they talk about it in Merkaba mysticism, and it goes all through history with the throne chariot of God and Ezekiel and his vision. The same thing, it's a geometry.
Hi, good afternoon, and I'm Colleen Hillman. I'm inside the Carson Mall at Bridger Mountain Boutique. I'm here with Rebecca Cullen today, who is with, you'll have to help me through this, the Western States Wild Horse and Burro Expo.
It's a long
Expo. There you go.
expo. It's a long name.
It's a long name,
Yes, it
but
is.
it's going to be held locally this year.
It is. It's at the Douglas County Fairgrounds, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's our second year at this venue, and it was a lot of fun last year. It's much more relaxed than our previous venue, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. It's a good family time.
And when we say wild horses and wild burros.
Wild burros.
They are actually ones that have been rounded up, put up for adoption.
Exactly. They've been rounded up by BLM mostly. We don't have very many that are estrays, which are on public land, and they're actually owned by the state of Nevada. The animals have gone anywhere from being week-old babies that were hand-raised, bottle-fed by their owners, to animals that were adopted as adults and either trained by their adopter or picked up through the inmate saddle horse training program here in Carson City.
And people will actually, at the expo in Gardnerville, be able to adopt a horse? Or a burro?
We work with BLM with the inmate saddle horse training program, and there they have 4 auctions a year, 3 at the prison and 1 at our event, and that will be Saturday the 2nd. And in advance of that, there is actually going to be an inmate challenge where the inmates are going to be showing the horses that they're training and those that will be auctioned, and there will be awarded a prize, and then those horses will be auctioned off on the Saturday.
And when you say they'll be the challenge, they'll actually go on trail rides and...
It's not going to be a trail ride, it's all arena classes.
Okay.
There's a trail challenge, so they're going to be going over obstacles and opening gates, and there may be a bridge and things along that line, and then also going to be judged some flat classes where either the rider's going to be judged or the animal is going to be judged, and then at the end of it there will be awards. Each of the inmate is going to get a baseball cap that says either participant or winner, champion.
Nice.
And there's also going to be an award of a brand new perpetual trophy saddle.
And who is that saddle made by? It was
The saddle is donated by the Apple family in California. Great group of people. The father of the daughter owned Myers Saddlery in Riverbend, California for quite a while. It was his saddlery. They're no longer associated with it, but prior to the division, they had this saddle made. And the inmate who wins the challenge will get the use of this brand new saddle for the next year, and then it'll again be awarded. So it's
beautiful.
going to stay in the program. It doesn't follow the inmate. It's going to stay in the program, and then they get the use of a brand new saddle, as opposed to kind of the pretty beat up saddles that many of them are using, because that's what the program has.
And the inmate program is looking for donations right now.
They are always looking for donations, whether it's jeans or boots or socks or tack. They can always use it, because as the guys come in, they don't come in with those items.
Western wear,
yeah, Western wear. And so they're always looking for it. Several of the local businesses are collection stations for them.
Right.
And then a couple of times a year, they're picked up and taken to the prison during one of the times when there's an auction going on.
Amazing.
It is amazing. The auction in November, one of the companies brought up a pickup truck bed full of boots that buyers of new boots had donated old boots to the program. It was pretty amazing to see a bed full of boots.
Oh, yeah. And they're especially looking for the larger sizes.
Larger sizes seem to be
boots.
more what they're interested in, 10, 11, 12s,
Okay.
that kind of thing. And they can be in brand new condition, or they can be in pretty roughed up condition. The guys will wear them.
And if you go online, you can find the flyer for this under
Western States Wild Horse and Burro Expo, or www.whbe.com.
And if you just Google
You
the
can
Burro
Google-
Expo Gardnerville,
Yeah,
it pops
or
right up.
Western States Wild Horse and Burro, or Burro and Expo, any sort of combination like that should pull up anything else that's associated with those names, but ours should come up also.
Right. And there's a spot there that tells the donations drop-off
The
points.
drop-offs, yeah, there's 2 in Reno. There are not currently any in Carson, Minden, or Gardnerville, but with your,
I would love to be
Yeah,
a drop-off.
that would be great.
And I will be a go-between drop-off, 'cause then I can get them to Reno.
okay. That,
Good.
actually, they don't need to come to Reno because they're going to,
They'll
they're
just
going
go
here.
south.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can pick them up, or
That's great.
one of the BLM guys can pick them up. We'll,
We'll start Facebooking that.
Yeah.
And get the word out
yeah, I'll let the BLM folks know that you guys would like to be a drop-off.
there. Good.
Usually there's
I'll start with our cameraman. Do
Can.
you have any jeans you'd like to give up? No.
Don't go in there.
boots, the shoes you've got on, whatever.
So at the expo, they'll be able to adopt horses and burros.
And burros, there's going to be 1 burro.
Oh, one burro.
The little burros are so popular, and
Oh,
their auction price is many times more, significantly more than some of the horses.
oh my goodness.
It's pretty amazing, but the guys have a lot of fun with the little
Oh,
burros.
sure.
They train them to lead and work on getting them accustomed to having something on their back and something around their belly. So if you choose to ride or choose to pack them,
Right.
they've been through that experience.
Oh.
And usually they're youngsters, a year to maybe 2 years old, so it's not that they're putting a weight on them at this point. They're just getting them accustomed to having a girth on and
Wow.
maybe a blanket on their backs. They teach them to lay down, and they lay down with them, and they share their lunches with them.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
darling.
Wow, just like a puppy almost.
Just like a puppy almost.
Oh. And you'll also have a silent auction.
There is a silent auction. They're all donated items. The auction starts on Friday morning when the expo begins, and then people just write in their bids as the event goes on, and then it closes at 1 o'clock on Sunday, which
Oh,
is the
beautiful.
last day. And then there's just a frenzy in the last 15
Oh, I
minutes for
bet.
people to try to one up on the bids,
Oh, that's
on
great.
especially on the things that they want.
Wow. That
So
would be
it's
fun.
one of our biggest money producers,
Oh,
is that silent auction.
Yeah.
So anybody who wants to donate to our silent auction, let us know, give us a call, send us an email. We would be more than happy to accept anything that you've got.
And it's a family event. You often have kids' activities. Will they be able to pack
There's-
horses and burros?
The animals are all on display. If they're not actively being shown at any point in time, they are in the facility, so there's in their stall or they're in their pens. You can come by, see everybody. You're welcome to touch and pet and talk to the owners or talk to any of us who are on the facility. We're more than happy to talk about our wild ones.
That's great.
And as far as kids events, I doubt this year that there will be any specific events.
Right.
It's only our second year at this venue, and we're still getting a feel for what our attendance is going to be. In past years, we've had school tours, kids events like face painting and coloring and raffle of kids items and what are the little machines that you use hemp and make rope.
make
and
rope.
But at this point, we won't have that. There's
Not yet.
Yeah, not quite yet. Once we get a little bit more comfortable with this venue and maybe the economy turns around a little bit more where we can do that, we probably will proceed with that again.
And you also have a buckle event.
We
Who
do.
wins the buckles and how do they do it? And
In our expo, there is actually a show. That's essentially what we are. It's a show, a 3-day show for the adopters of Mustangs and Burros to show off what they can do with their animals.
Wow.
There's equitation classes, there's riding classes, flat classes where the rider's being judged, flat classes where the animal's being judged. For the animals that are either not old enough to be ridden or maybe there's something off with them and they can't be ridden. Many of the burros are shown in hand, so they're led rather than ridden. And some of those are a lot of fun to watch, especially the trail when you're leading a burro in hand and trying to get them to go over bridges and gates and through fake ponds and things along that line. It's a lot of fun. There are there's 8 burros. Let's try that again.
Okay, we're
Getting
close.
my
We're getting
tongue
there.
tangled. There are 8 trophy buckles awarded, and there are 8 reserve champion
Oh, wow.
buckles awarded.
Yeah.
So we give out 16 buckles on the Sunday afternoon, the
Perfect.
final day. That's once all of the totals have been accumulated, and the company that we get our buckles from is Gist Silversmiths in Grass Valley, I believe it is.
I bet they're
And
beautiful.
they're beautiful, and the company is very generous because we are a nonprofit. They do allow us to take a discount off the retail price
That's
of the
wonderful.
buckles, and it makes it a lot easier for us
Right.
to give out really a quality item that people look
Exactly.
forward to wearing on their belts. So that's Sunday afternoon, and there's 16 buckles that are awarded.
Oh.
And it can be anywhere from an adult rider to a child. So it's everything in between.
Yeah.
And some of them are, again, judged on the rider, judged on the horse, or on an animal that's being led. Myself and my spotted burro were champion in-hand burros for 2011.
Oh, my gosh.
So I have the beautiful
I was
trophy
going to
buckle.
ask if you were a participant.
Yes.
That's great.
That was before I became on the board of directors.
Oh, there you go.
So once you do that, you stop having the time to show, and
Right.
all of your attention is donated to running the show.
And you're also part of a group of women who call themselves...
The Wild Ass Women.
Right, it's so fun.
We-
And it's because you own...
We all have wild asses.
There you go.
And again, it goes from ones that were rescued as orphans
Oh.
and bottle raised by their owners to ones that were picked up at one of the corral situations, or they were purchased at an auction where the inmates had gentled them. Or it comes even down to me. I purchased my burros from the gal who had adopted them directly from Palomino Valley. And it is just a heck of a good time. We all dress up in our saloon girl floozies and put as much debris and things on our asses as we can and parade ourselves around northern Nevada and actually northern California too.
No, I've seen you at the candy dance in a booth selling kisses.
We have done that. We've
burros
also
actually
done,
do kisses?
yeah, some of them do, or you kiss our ass.
Oh, that's great.
And we pay you, we charge you for it.
There you go.
But we do a lot of the parades in Virginia City. We do Nevada Day here, the Reno Rodeo Parade, and we also do Bishop Mule Days.
That's right, and at Mule Days last year, didn't you win?
We've
prizes
won
with your
the
costumes?
first place, the trophy for Comedy Donkey Group.
Oh, that's great.
It is. That's a long parade though.
Oh, I
But
bet. I
it's a
haven't
nice
been
trophy.
to it, but
They
that
do a
would be
really
fun.
nice. It's a fun parade. It's the longest non-motorized parade in California.
Oh my gosh.
So it's all mostly mules because that's what the focus is
Right.
down there.
Oh my goodness.
It's a fun
And-
time.
In Southern California, the burros or mules are, as I see them every time